right, folks. Good morning, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning. What a beautiful day it is out there, right? Mid-70s and sunny. This is great. Doing in summertime weather. Enjoy it while you can. You know how quick it will change here in New England. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available to you for the next hour as we are Common Sense Conversation. Common Sense. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you can listen to this show in the station streaming 24/7 on the TuneIn app. The TuneIn app is a collection of radio stations that stream. So 24 hours a day, WCRN is streaming it. Just punch in WCRN. Once you have the app on your device, do me a favor, hit the like button so we know you're there, and you can listen anytime. I happen to be streaming this from the studio cam, broadcasting from HQ today, flying aboard here, and so physically here, not in the Cameo off-site location. So everything works the same, 508-871-7000, but you can take a peek into the studio and listen to the show on Facebook, Twitter, at Joe Mangi, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show, as well as my YouTube channel, LinkedIn page, and even Twitch TV at Joe M Show. It's awesome. So, anyways, here's some housekeeping. 508-871-7000, text line 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388, or email, text, Joe on the radio, gmail.com. It appears on the same screen in real time. All right, as usual, as things have been for quite a while now. I mean, news is just coming out fast and furious every day. Something is happening. There's another layer of the onion peel, but what have you. So this is just out. The healthcare workers who have been fired over vaccine mandates, they've been awarded a $10 million settlement. And we said this a while ago that we're going to see, as dust settles and more is revealed about the vaccine shots, things are going to come about. And I've always maintained that forcing us to take an experimental vaccine, regardless of how good it could be for you, but where we didn't know everything you would do, it really should have been the option to you whether you put it in your body or not. And we're seeing this come back under Title VII now. It's a $10 million settlement here. So let's go to the story. It's in Illinois. Illinois healthcare workers who were fired or otherwise impacted by their hospitals where they're employed because of the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. They're going to receive a $10 million settlement and challenging that forced invasion of their body. Matt Staver, he's the founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. That's the group behind the lawsuit. He said, let this case be a warning to employers that violated Title VII. It is especially significant and gratifying that the first class-wide COVID settlement protects healthcare workers. So it breaks down, we'll go over this, the case centered around workers at North Shore University Health System. They filed the lawsuit back in October of 21, claiming their employer illegally refused to grant any religious exemptions to COVID-19 vaccine mandates. In that particular issue, right, haven't we seen that run throughout the thread of all these COVID issues, that no religious exemptions were granted? The military didn't recognize it either. Major corporations wouldn't go on it. The court after court, appellate courts and regional courts didn't take that into consideration. And for 2 years, right, we scratch our head saying, what do you mean no religious exemption? We have religious exemptions in just about every aspect of our lives. And it seemed that they just set that aside. Didn't even want to hear it when it came to COVID shots. Now, the settlement approved by the Illinois Northern District Court, it's going to result in 473 employees of that system becoming eligible for compensation for being denied their religious exemption to the mandate. with any of those fired as a result of the rules being eligible for about $25,000. 13 plaintiffs, right, involved in the suit will be eligible for an additional $20,000. That's $45,000. Well, those who they complied with the mandate, so we have healthcare professionals who protested, objected, but they couldn't afford to lose the job. So it was coercion, really, because they needed to keep a roof over their head, feed their family. So those people who took the jab to keep their job but protested on those religious objections, they'll be eligible for $3,000. And those ones that are getting a total of $45,000, they also have their job back. They have to be reinstated in the job where they work. That's if they want to go back to work for that hospital. They have their job, the right to be reinstated. Now, the judge in this case is John Ness. He was appointed by President Trump. He approved the settlement, and he really did appear to side on Liberty Counsel's claim that the mandate violated Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. So anyone fired because of the refusal to get the jab will also be eligible for that reemployment. And that's a big thing, because what have they been doing since they lost their job, right? So they go to unemployment, maybe they do day work as a doctor, nurse, or I don't know, right? But they're out of the job. So if they haven't found gainful employment that they enjoy, they're entitled to get that job back, period. Now, do you want to go back there? There's probably some hard feelings, right? You're walking around there that just cost them $10 million of their insurance company, $10 million. But think of it this way. You're probably the most secure job in the building. After you just won the $10 million, or you're part of a class action suit for $10 million against them, if they were to let you go, boy, that would be examined pretty darn closely. So you probably have a really safe job in that situation. The Liberty Counsel Vice President of Legal Affairs, Harrietta Mahet, said in a statement that the settlement should serve as a strong warning to employers across the nation that they cannot refuse to accommodate those with sincere religious objections to be forced vaccination mandates. Now, I'd like to concentrate on sincere religious objections, because when we start talking about our civil rights and religious exemptions, sometimes this can be looked upon, and there have been people who have used that as a get-out-of-jail-free card for everything, and that they just simply claim religious exemptions. But should there be some kind of test of that, a matrix to determine that? Do you have to go to church every week? No, I mean, at what point is it a sincere religious objection? Many of us are walking around as recovering Catholics, right? Lapsed Catholics. We get real Catholic at Christmas and Easter, but not too many other times during the year. Although I say if you live as a Christian all the time, that should be good enough for God, I would say. But what is the test that they use for sincere religious objections? And what religion is that? I don't know. I am a baptized Roman Catholic. I didn't have a lot of say in it when that was done to me, but I don't recall anything in catechism that says you can't take a vaccination. There is the part about, there is issues about body, temple, and so forth, and not abusing that. So I don't know if that's a stretch there or where we are. What say you? What say you? Can you avoid a vaccine mandate because of religion? Or can you fall into the religious exemption? Now, these people are going to, this isn't life-changing money or anything, but the point is there. And this suit has set the stage for suits to follow. This has set the stage for lawsuits and maybe larger settlements. Right? We have Massachusetts. We have state police troopers who lost their job because they didn't take the vaccination. Right? So what are the ripple effects of this? Because this is what we call in the legal profession a precedent has been set. A suit's been filed, gone to court, judgment's been made, there is a precedent. This will be cited now in future cases, right? So from now on, you're going to have lawyers citing Illinois healthcare workers versus Illinois state of. Or in this case, I'm sorry, it's actually healthcare workers versus the, what was it, Northern District, Lake District healthcare system. Two private entities, right? The class action of the plaintiffs versus the healthcare system that employed them all. North Shore Universal Healthcare Systems. Thank you. That's what it is. So that versus the workers. So that's going to be cited in future cases to come. And we'll see. So there's an open the floodgate. I suspect us. Now that there's a precedent, now that there's been a victory on that basis, it has given the foundation, it gives a case to cite, it goes forward, and now for this to come into a screeching halt, you're going to need another federal judge to stop it in the tracks, which they don't tend to do. It has to be probably a very glaring and gross error in judgment for another federal appellate court to turn that around. But we're coming to the first break on the Tuesday morning edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here at 8:30 WCRN. Remember, the lines are open and available to you at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Join the conversation. We're going to talk about Governor Abbott busing migrants to other states, sanctuary cities. They asked for it, man. Georgia Garcon, signatures have fallen short. And other topics that was here in the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Stick with us. All right, folks, welcome back to the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on Tuesday morning. It's 70s, mid-70s out there, beautiful summer day here in New England. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. It's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. Common sense conversation for the common sense citizen. That's what we do here. All right, I wanted to shift gears because I got to tell you, this situation with Governor Abbott busing migrants to D.C. and to New York is a brilliant political move as far as I'm concerned. It really is. But what do you look at? What's the deal here? And to me, every time Eric Adams gets up there and he complains, and this is overwhelming. Remember, buses are coming like with 40 migrants on it, where Texas is dealing with thousands a day, with 4,000 or 5,000 in one community coming over the border. And for him to be up there in complaining, and I was going to say the B word about this, it's really, you look like an idiot, man. Stop it, because you may not admit it, but New York has proudly touted itself as a sanctuary city, as you know, Seattle and San Francisco, right? These cities in the states that claim to be sanctuary states, like California and sanctuary cities, I think the consequences of that claim has got to catch up with you. And Governor Abbott has done this beautifully, because this isn't this often the problem that we have with the lawmakers and those that are making decisions for us, who, by the way, aren't elected officials. And that is a whole nother discussion, probably for another show. But if anyone who has ever listened to me for any length of time knows, one of my biggest issues is the power that bureaucracies have and the power that's conveyed onto employees who have no oversight, and we have no choice. We didn't elect these people. We can't elect them out of office, but yet they're given the ability, like EPA and FDA and so forth, to make regulations and rules that in effect have the power and force of law. Whole another topic. Now, as I've always said, I don't understand how they can decide that they're saying, anyway, New York, Seattle, whatever, we are a sanctuary city. And that's fine if that's just what you say, but then they go ahead and practice certain things, like not enforcing laws, and even going so far as to circumventing laws, and punishing anyone who tries to enforce the law. So now you've crossed it. So now you're saying that mayors can arbitrarily decide what United States laws they will or won't follow? I have a problem with that. If that goes unchallenged, unchecked, doesn't that start to break down the system? We have laws, and we also have social contracts in certain behavior. So for New York, which is a well-known, self-declared sanctuary city, in state for that matter, then to say, wait a minute, you can't send illegal aliens to our state. It taxes our systems. We don't have enough resources for them. There you go. Consequences, meaning the declaration. And this is beautiful, because the same people who are allowing these self-proclaimed sanctuary cities are also defunding the police, villainizing the police. But these are usually people that have security details, like the members of Congress, right? They travel with armed security officers. Then we look at various mayors and governors who have security, but then we have the Congress, and mayors are using taxpayer money for private security to the tune of $4,000 or $5,000 a day sometimes. So they're not living under the same rules and conditions that they're imposing. And this, I think, should be taken to other situations. But Governor Abbott has brought it to the front door, right? He's brought it to the feet of these self-declared sanctuary cities. And I think it's a brilliant political move, because now Adams gets up there and he's basically saying, we can't handle this. and then asking for National Guard. Yet they would criticize and laugh at Trump when he suggested the National Guard being used at the actual border states. And I mean the border states that abut Mexico, because let's face it, the 48 contiguous states are all border states. And the other part of this is, where was this outrage, Mayor Adams, when Air Biden was flying airplanes into your state in the middle of the night? I'm not going to get into semantics with Jen Psaki as to whether 2 or 4 o'clock in the morning is the middle of the night. We all know what the middle of the night is. 508-871-7000, what say you? Let me go to the phone to Mark, who's been waiting patiently. Good morning, Mark. What say you? I saw the online version. Which one of the story are you referring to?
New York City shelter Times Square hotel.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I'm not sure, you know, and the thing about it, I'm sure that the owners and managers of this hotel probably like the revenue, but, man, but it's going to create a reputation. And, you know, and here's something else, Mark, and I don't know if you saw this and everybody, but there are some of these very liberal cities and communities who are proposing legislation, ordinances within their city that all hotels, and this is LA is doing this, all hotels have to report to the city by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon all of their vacant rooms that they haven't sold, so that the city can then say, fine, we're going to put up these people. And I'm thinking to myself, can you imagine the Beverly Hills hotel notifying LA that we've got 40 rooms at $1,800 to $2,500 a night? Sure. Nice place. Thank you, Mark. And there you go. This is the thing. Right? So this is the answer to it. Now, I don't think this is the solution. Okay, it might be the immediate solution that you're dealing with right away, or we got to rent hotel rooms. Hey, we do that here in Massachusetts all the time, by the way. For welfare recipients and homeless people in emergency, the state rents hotel rooms. Sometimes we'll rent out an entire, Hotel 6 or something, sometimes weeks on end, months on end. It's happening. It's costing you a fortune in your taxpayer dollars. But it's a immediate answer to homelessness and so forth. But the bigger picture of this, I think that this is a brilliant move by Abbott, and I think that it's something that we should look at on how else do you meet the policymakers and the ridiculous policies with the consequences of those policies. And you got to bring them together so that they actually have to deal with them. And what's interesting about this is apparently Governor Abbott wasn't initially set up or planning on sending all these migrants to New York particularly, New York City was not initially the destination when he began using asylum seekers east. That changed after Adams launched his war of words against Abbott, who's now sending hundreds to the Big Apple. And that's the other thing. Mayor Adams got up there and he starts calling him all kinds of names, and I'll get into the allegations in a moment. We've got a break coming up in a minute. But he gets up there and he's talking about taking busloads of New Yorkers and going down to Texas and knocking on doors to run against Abbott. I don't think that was thought through. Think about that. And as Governor Abbott responded, yeah, load up. Come on down, do that. That would be wonderful. My campaign will pay for the gas. He didn't say that, I'm saying that. But I would say I'd pay for the gas. A bunch of New Yorkers come down to Texas to tell our residents here who to vote for and who not to vote for. So not only are you coming from another state where who the governor is has no bearing on you, but you're coming from a Northeast liberal state into red Texas to lecture them. That should go over like a lead balloon, folks. But we're going to take a break halfway through the Tuesday edition here of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Don't forget we're live streaming, always 24/7 on the TuneIn app. Punch it in, WCRN on TuneIn. You'll see it come up. Do me a favor, hit the like button so we know you're there, and then it's very easy to find going forward. I got a couple more thoughts I want to finish up on this Governor Abbott, Eric Adams, busing migrants to sanctuary cities and so forth, but lines are open and available at 508-871-7000. What say you? All right, welcome back to the second half of the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. Don't forget, we're live streaming on the TuneIn app. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. We're live streaming on my social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch TV, and even LinkedIn. Before I actually get back onto this, just as a side note, if you hadn't caught this, the headlines are, walls are closing in on Alec Baldwin as his gun line falls apart. What that means is they've tested the weapon over and over again. They say it did not go off without the trigger being pulled. So despite Mr. Baldwin's claim of this gun magically going off in his hand while he was following direction, and did you see that interview? It was almost as if he was going to project the fault onto the director that he shot for telling him, hold the gun that angle and so forth. They said, no, sorry, it wouldn't have gone off. The trigger had to be pulled. It didn't just go off in your hand. So Governor Abbott and sanctuary cities. See, the thing about this, right, because this was months ago when this came in. Abbott was on Hannity, and he was telling them about this, but he was talking about he was planning to bus migrants from the Texas-Mexico border to Washington, D.C., which he did. And he had mixed reviews. Even some conservatives were like, because it was very outside of the box thinking. To me, it was so logical. It was just your sanctuary city, send them there. Remember, when Trump was in office, he said that. He said to the sanctuary, San Francisco and stuff, he said, then send the migrants there. You want them? You want to take them out of the states that have a problem with them and put them to the states that say, hey, welcome. So there was some mixed reviews on that, but the story kind of fell away. But then Adams, he began raising the alarm about the impact on his city. Well, I mean, you just got the hypocrisy, right? It shows the hypocrisy of the liberal leaders up here in the Northeast who think that the border crisis created by Joe Biden, first of all, and it's fine as long as Texas and Arizona has to deal with it. But as soon as they have to deal with it, the real consequences of the Biden border caused crisis, they're very upset and they're up in arms about it. But they're not saying, hey, Joe, fix the border, close it. And don't give us it's closed, our border's secure. Allowing tens of thousands a day to come over and process them, that's not a closed border. You've turned our border agents from enforcing federal immigration law into security of our sovereign nation and border into travel agents and admins, right? Processors. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to Ken, who's been raised. Ken, good morning, sir. What say you? Yeah, it's on the list. I mean, we're going to get to the so forth. I can't do every single hour of every single show on it. Yeah, well, it shouldn't be taken lightly. But the balance here is, folks, and I think the left would like to bait the right into acting and behaving like Antifa and Black Lives Matter militant part of it. And you can't do that because it just gives them the opportunity to succeed and then actually justify them in the terrorist tagging and really, really looking at you. No, it's got to be in the ballot box. I'm sorry, that's how this has got to be addressed. And you've got to we've put these people in. We as a country, no, not you or me individually, but we as a country put Joe Biden into that office. And I know you can argue all around that about the shady math, but he's been sworn in and certified as the president, and he is beyond unqualified for this. Now, Trump is demanding the immediate release of the completely unredacted affidavit behind what he calls a horrible and shocking break-in of Mar-a-Lago. And that is so important. We've talked about this, for those that haven't followed up or understand warrant versus affidavit. The warrant is the piece of paper that is signed that says that they can go there and they can search. Now, it should be very narrow in scope. But again, now we're finding out that the part of the request of this warrant literally lists from the day he took office to the day he left office. That is one very broad fishing net to cast, saying that we look at for anything he did in the entire time that he was president. That's not a narrow scope. That's not targeting. And the affidavit, folks, those are the legal signed pieces of testimony that are used to convince a judge, or should be used to convince a judge. In this case, it sounds like all they needed to do was shop for a judge that would sign anything that would hurt Donald Trump, is what they did there. And I have opinions about judge shopping. But the affidavit is where they make the argument for the search warrant, where they say, this is the information we know, this is how we got it, whether it's coming from a reliable source, a tip, or surveillance video, or what have you. So there's so much that we don't know because the DOJ is being quiet about it. They're not sharing this. And Trump is saying, hey, release the completely unredacted affidavit. Because what is it? What is it that causes 30-plus agents to go for over 9 hours if you knew what you were looking for and you were supposedly knew right where it was? Why are you rifling through Melania's wardrobe? Why are you going from room to room and through everything? And this is a former president, probably the leading contender in the next presidential election. And this is how the left and the party in power, the Democrats, use the DOJ. If you don't see that they've been weaponized, you're not paying attention. And you've got legal scholars who are pointing out that the equal application of the law has not happened here. Ken, if we look at how Barack Obama was treated with items, or the Clintons when they left the White House, and $28,000 in furniture and paintings and stuff that they removed from the White House that they didn't move in with. I mean, in some circles, you'd call that theft, but they felt that they could take them with them. They had to retrieve them. She was allowed to smash her devices, wash her computers, and then her lawyers were allowed to go through the documents and decided what to hand over back to the government. None of that was afforded to Trump. And none of this, apparently, if it was so pressing, Garland saying he went back and forth and debated on this for weeks and weeks in the urgency, and they pull the trigger on all this. The president, the vice president, they go off for vacation. And Merrick Garland says nothing, where he could have come out, when he came out 4 days later, he could have done that Monday night. All right, so this is a gross abuse of an overreach of power. Oh, you mean for releasing? Yeah, yeah. They sued for it, and he came out and said that's why we're asking for it to be. You look, dude, his credibility, the DOJ and the FBI, they have lost so much credibility and confidence of the American people. And again, and I pointed this out in another, I don't know, it was the last show, the show before that, that it's not all, okay? Jim Jordan, he came out and he said, look, we've had 14 FBI agents, whistleblowers, come to his office and say, look, I'm in the FBI. I want to do, this is why this isn't what I joined for. There is this going on. There's this abuse of power. This is going on, direct orders. And Jim Jordan saying, thank you very much, but we aren't in power. And for the party that's not in power to have so little power is actually something I think we need to address. Just because you're not the majority, you can't do those things. You don't have subpoena power. You don't have the hearing power. You don't have all that goes with it. But I'm going to have to hold you there, Ken, because we're up against the clock. It's time to take our third and final break here in the Tuesday morning edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We return on the other side with our fourth and final segment here on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, lines are open and available at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. What say you? Joe Mangiacotti, stick with us. Back on the other side here, folks. All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment here of the Tuesday morning edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, AM 830 WCRN. And I was, this is in my notes to get to this Mar-a-Lago, the affidavits. Donald Trump, he's been out on Truth Social, that's his platform, as you know, demanding the immediate release of the completely unredacted affidavit. And that means a lot of times when the government releases documents, they literally black out a lot of the lines that they consider sensitive information. It's called redaction. Well, he wants these affidavits released without anything. What is it that you put in front of this judge? What is it? What are the points, the argument, the evidence to convince a judge signing off, or in this case, a magistrate judge signing off on busting into the home of a former president and most likely leading contender against the sitting president in the next presidential election. So he made this on Truth Social on Monday night, hours after the Justice Department said that it opposed the release of the affidavits because the action would, according to DOJ, highly likely to compromise future investigative steps. What is it that you're investigating here? Again, I go back to this date range tells you the manner in which they hit the house and search tells you this was a wide net cast and a fishing expedition. If something that was so important that you would just violate 246 years of just this understanding of a certain amount of dignity and respect that you pay former presidents, and when we have a history of diplomatically dealing with these issues in the past, even very recent past, that you would violate all that. So Trump went on to post that there is no way to justify the unannounced raid of Mar-a-Lago, the home of the 45th president of the United States, who he put in parentheses, by the way, got more votes by far than any sitting president in the history of the country, unquote, or one paragraph, by a very large number of gun-toting FBI agents in the Department of Justice. But in the interest of transparency, I call for the immediate release of the completely unredacted affidavit pertaining to the horrible and shocking break-in. That's what he posted. And he's clearly not worried because, you know, look, we've all got a chance to see Trump work and see how his mind works. And I am convinced that in his mind, there is nothing he's done wrong. Even if technically maybe there is a violation of taking a document or something like that, that, you know, he's saying that, after all, he was the president. He can declassify anything. And then he says, according to his people, there was a standing order of anything that was removed was declassified. I don't know if it can work that way. It's an argument. But what's interesting, he goes on to point out, is that the judge on this case should recuse. Judge Bruce Reinhardt. Now, this is the same guy who had mysteriously recused himself in the case surrounding Trump's 2016 presidential opponent, Hillary Clinton, back in June. And he's all over social media with his hatred for Trump. Now, on that issue of the judge shopping, I said this before, I'm going to say it again, I think when it comes to this type of thing at this level, I think two things should be implemented when it comes to warrants. One is the judges are on like a ship, just like doctors are on call. And they may be home or out to dinner or what have you, but something arises that needs their attention because they're a specialist or what have you. In the old days, you'd page the doctor, now you just call them, right? So there should be judges should take shifts so that when you come up with the need for a warrant at 2 in the morning in an investigation or what have you, that whoever the judge is, that's who you have to go to, period. You can't go to a buddy judge and wake them up in the middle of the night. Or you can't shop around because you know there's that particular judge will actually just about sign any warrant you ask for. No. They take shifts. That judge is on, that's who you have to make your argument and prove that it is enough to violate this person's constitutional rights. Is that in essence what you're doing? You're setting aside their rights because of an argument that they violated the law and that there's probable cause there. And then the other part is, maybe when you get to a certain level of crime, like this type of level, and that would be determined, I guess, within the legal or within the bars, right? But maybe that you need a multiple judges to sign off, a panel, 2 or 3 judges. That if you're going to start conducting raids and searches on presidents and presidential personnel, right? Advise lawyers, whether official lawyer, government lawyer, personal lawyer. You're going to do things, you're looking at people who are cabinet positions, things of that nature. Just like the FISA court has a panel of judges. Maybe that's how this has to work. That just one judge doesn't sign off on that. Think about that. Is a lot of authority, a lot of power that you're resting into one justice. So maybe, just maybe, we say, when you have a warrant of this magnitude here, you got to go in front of 3 judges, and they get to ask the question like a judge is supposed to ask, right? They just don't sign with your foot. The judge says, "What do you want me to do? Sign that warrant. Why? Who is it?" Well, it's so-and-so, and we believe that they have guns there, drugs there, or paperwork evidence. Well, why do you believe that? How did you come to this? What was that source? Does it rise to that level? And I think in a case like this, there should have been at least a 3-panel judge that the DOJ needed to present an argument that we are going to do this unprecedented raid on the private home of a former president and possible presidential candidate. Again, makes sense. Now, Trump's demand came after DOJ objected to efforts seeking to unseat the affidavit, or unseal it rather, warning that it implicates highly classified material as well as highly sensitive information about witnesses and specific investigative techniques. So what they're saying is they don't want to tip their hand on who was giving them the information about what was going on within the walls of Mar-a-Lago. This is something else, right? We've seen his presidency has been under attack before he took office. We had Jamal Congress people writing articles of impeachment before he was sworn in. Now we now know that this man, they spied on him as a citizen, a candidate, a president-elect. They were putting moles into his campaign. They were offering to pay people to inform. And I said this the other day, and I'm going to say it again. If it turns out that the mole or the person that's telling them that there's something up and this is where it's kept, if it turns out to be a Secret Service agent, now we've got another branch, another arm of the executive branch, another gun-toting branch that has violated a long-standing tradition. Secret Service have always been the fly on the wall. They have to be there. They hear and see things, which is why they have top secret clearances, because there are going to be conversations in front of them or in earshot of them, and they're going to see things that are not meant for anybody but those elected officials or cabinet members or what have you to hear. And their long-standing tradition is they don't talk. They don't tell stories out of school. And they don't inform on their protectees. So we would have another branch of the government losing the confidence of the American people. I hope it's not a Secret Service agent. So they go on to say, if disclosed, the affidavit would serve as a roadmap to the government's ongoing investigation, providing specific details about its direction and likely course, in a manner that is highly likely to compromise future investigative steps. What is it that they really think? Because again, until I see evidence to the contrary, you're not going to convince me this isn't a fishing expedition and that this is not a situation of show me the man, I'll show you the crime. Well, let us get in there and we'll find something. Because all of these denials and political moves and PR things and not disclosing and fighting it, it's just saying that if we were to actually see the original affidavit and request for a warrant to do this unprecedented search and seizure, they would have nada. Nothing that would rise to this. And certainly wouldn't meet the equal application of law when we know that we had a Secretary of State that had no government email, private server with classified information, and we know that it was actually compromised. But this wraps up Tuesday's edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Hey, Thursday morning, politically speaking, back Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Enjoy this beautiful day, folks. It's gorgeous out there. Follow me on social media, Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I. Hey, Joe, out.